We're going to move on to our next rapid set of data. So I would like to bring out to the stage Lara Hirschhausen, who is head of International Climate Finance Innovation Program at the Department for Energy Security and Net Zero in the UK. Lara is a senior advisor in the Development for Energy Security and Net Zero, where she currently oversees a portfolio of climate finance innovation programs. She's worked in international climate finance, strategy, and diplomacy for several years, including on ODA program delivery in London, Mexico, and Panama, and also for the International Hydrogen Strategy and Engagement. Lara is going to introduce the Breakthrough Agenda that was launched by a coalition of 45 world leaders at the World Leaders Summit during COP26 in Glasgow. It's proven really important. I personally am very excited to hear more about it because it's really looking at the applications. How do we get these big high-level goals that we've set at these international summits like the one in Glasgow? How do we actually get that implemented in the ground? So Lara, tell us a little bit more about the Breakthrough Agenda.
Thanks, Dave, and hello, everybody. I'm very excited to be here. And firstly, I'd like to thank the organizers and UNIDO for inviting me here today to speak on behalf of the Breakthrough Agenda. Now, if we are reflecting on global developments over the last years, I think it is obvious that the transition to clean technologies is indeed accelerating across many sectors. But there's also evidence that we still need to do a lot more, and we need to move faster if we want to meet our climate goals and secure the future of our planet. And for this, targeted international collaboration is key. The faith in multilateral processes has been eroded over the last years. I think we're all aware of how we're finding ourselves in a more complex geopolitical context, one that is fractured, is difficult to navigate. But we also know that the climate can't afford to wait for us. So the current climate crisis really shows how we need to cooperate internationally now more than ever. And if we do that, we can innovate faster, we can reduce costs, and we can scale new markets, which ultimately ensure that we can make available those technologies that we need to meet our Paris goals on a global scale. And this is why the Breakthrough Agenda exists. So it was launched at COP26, supported by 48 countries, representing 80% of the global GDP, and it aims to make those clean technologies and sustainable solutions to be the cheapest and the most viable and readily accessible options globally by 2030. But before I continue, just to quickly explain what the Breakthrough Agenda is and what it isn't, there should be a slide up here. I don't know if anyone can bring it up. If not, maybe they will, but in theory, we have a slide which explains the process. But what I just quickly want to highlight is that the Breakthrough Agenda isn't another initiative, but it is a global process, one that is looking to identify what needs to happen in the most emitting sectors and how, looking at international collaboration and bringing together all the different initiatives to work jointly. It is underpinned by expert analysis by the International Energy Agency, IRENA, and the United Nations High-Level Climate Action Champions, and it runs on an annual process through the Breakthrough Agenda reports, which are outlining the priority actions and recommendations that we need to take. And the authors of this report have warned us that there is a serious gap in international collaboration, which actually threatens to delay net zero by decades. So therefore, the Breakthrough Agenda process is designed to do three things. Firstly, to facilitate coordination between international initiatives so that we know who is doing what, that we can avoid duplication, and that we can really focus on the sort of mobilizing our efforts into the processes that are already in existence. And then secondly, building on that, we're looking to identify what are the most urgent international actions that we need to take, that we need to come together as countries and different stakeholders to deliver them through the leading initiatives. And then lastly, we're partnering with COP presidencies and other stakeholders over the year so we can ensure strong alignment with the different agendas to make sure that we can deliver on these actions jointly. And just to mention a couple of examples where tangible progress has been made over the last couple of years. So if we're looking at renewables or electric vehicles, we can see how they're scaling exponentially. We have actually doubled the rate of solar and wind deployment every 4 years. We have doubled the sale of electric vehicles roughly every 1.2 years. We are seeing costs of battery falling by around 16% annually, and it is now actually cheaper to own an electric vehicle in Europe and China than it is to own a fossil-fueled car. So if we are able to continue on this trajectory, we are actually in striking distance of meeting our 2030 net zero scenario in these sectors. However, we still need to do a lot more in many other areas. So, as always, more investment is needed. And just to mention a couple of examples, on hydrogen, more needs to be done to create the right demand signals. In steel, we need to move from pledges and commitments to actual policies and contracts. And in agriculture, we need to come together to agree standards for natural resource management globally. At COP28 in Dubai, we're going to come together again to see how the breakthrough agenda has supported implementation of the emission reduction in high-emitting sectors. And we're also going to launch a new set of priority actions as an update from the previous agenda to make sure that we can really ratchet up ambition and move to really set our minds on delivery into 2024 and beyond. And this will be a global effort, so really synthesizing the effort and work undertaken by many of the initiatives, both from the private and the public sector. And I just want to mention here that we are really excited to have a partnership agreement with the COP28 president at UAE, so we can work together closely to align the COP28 climate, the priority actions with the breakthrough agenda. This also builds on other recent successes, such as our partnership with the Clean Energy Ministerial and the Mission Innovation, which was agreed in Goa earlier this year. And we are looking forward to expanding the breakthroughs as well by launching 2 new breakthroughs, one on cement, which will be co-led by Canada and the UAE, and one on buildings, co-led by France and Morocco. So to conclude, I think the Breakthrough Agenda report has dealt us a strong call for action. But it has also given us a way forward. So if we can come together collectively and agree on the priority actions, we have the opportunity to really drive forward tangible emission reduction and bring the world back on track for 1.5 degrees. Thank you.
Thanks, Lara. Yeah, you can come on over here to the table. So really interesting to hear what the Breakthrough Agenda has been up to since Glasgow. I want to check with the audience. Does anyone have any questions for Lara in the audience? I'm going to give us a quick scan here. No, okay. So Lara, I had a couple questions for you. So you mentioned the genesis of the Breakthrough Agenda, right? And so there were certainly initial objectives set in Glasgow. How would you assess the agenda track record in meeting those initial objectives set at COP26?
So I think if we're kind of just reflecting on where we are, what we can definitely see that the sectoral process in itself is a lot more, is really embedded now, I think, in international cooperation on climate. So I remember back when I was in the team that was planning the COP26 presidency, and this was something very new, and we felt it was a strong gap. And I feel, in a way, looking at the sectors connected to the Paris Agreement has become the norm. We are, under the Breakthrough Agenda, having an annual cycle. So we are publishing the reports every year, which actually allows us to assess the actions and where we are. And the latest assessment from the IEA, I mean, to be completely honest, has handed us a bit of a mixed card. So I think we've seen really good progress in certain sectors. So just to mention hydrogen as an example, we've seen really good work on greenhouse gas emission standards, on certification, but then there are other areas where we also have realized we need to do more. So I mean, I mentioned steel, I mentioned agriculture, and that's why we're actually updating the actions now at COP28, and this is actually part of the global stocktake, so that we can really focus on these areas to hopefully ratchet up ambition and deliver where we need to deliver more.
So that's looking in the past, back. Let's look forward now. So you mentioned some of the things that you want to achieve at COP28. So looking COP28, COP29, COP30, looking ahead, what are the deliverables there that are really essential? And what are the upcoming priority sectors or priority action that you're really looking forward to?
Oh, yes. So, I mean, I think I mentioned that we are partnering with the current COP presidency, so UAE. And I think this was a really, really good experience for us, and also really showed us how important it is to align efforts with the COP presidencies. So one of our priorities is to continue this work and obviously continue working with future presidencies. Then in terms of actions, so as I think I briefly mentioned, we have 30 priority actions, which are part of the response to the global stocktake. So we are launching those at COP28. We are engaging with countries also to discuss them in advance so that we have consensus and agreement and we can hopefully really move into delivery. And then in addition, in terms of what the priority sectors are, so we are also expanding the breakthroughs. So we are having one new breakthrough on cement, and we're having, that's co-led by Canada and the UAE, and one on buildings. And this is part of our kind of current, constant assessment and really looking to use this model that we've seen as quite a success in all the relevant sectors that we need to, where we need to decarbonize.
Yes, it's really about spreading the word and expanding the involvement at this stage. Quick check, any questions from the audience? Okay, so I think it's super interesting what you guys are doing. It's especially as we go forward in the next COPs and as we look ahead to implementing the stuff on the ground, it's important to measure it. And as you say, it's a mixed bag so far. Successes, then areas where there could be improvement. So it's going to be really interesting to follow along. How about a round of applause for Lara?
Thank you.